Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft, and today we got 20 more questions. Now these are in no particular order, and these are questions that Mrs. Blackie has gone through and looked at that people have asked that I may or may not have answered fully enough, and so she compiles them because she thinks these would be interesting questions. I am merely the husband. I say yes dear and I answer. So, if you have questions that you'd like Blackie to answer, just put them in the comments somewhere and I'll write them down or she'll write them down and we'll get to them. Okay, question number 1. When you're done with the Percussion Revolver series, could you do a series on automatic handguns? I can, if there's any real interest. I have some quite deep knowledge in like 1911s, in high powers, a lot of the older designs and stuff. I will be honest with you, I'm not that versed with the new plastic guns. I know how they work, and I know their basic function and how they're all various copies of the Glock in one way or another. But yeah, if there's some interest, if you would like me to do a series on automatic handguns or of something like that, leave them in the comments and we'll try to do that down the line. Number 2, will you be doing more vids with vintage gear? Yes. I'm wanting to do a camp out this spring where it's nothing but vintage gear. And I'm trying to find some like-minded individuals local who would like to go out with me and camp out and do that using only vintage Boy Scout gear or old-time camping gear. Nothing nylon, nothing modern. But yes, I will be doing that for the purpose of doing videos on it. There's a lot that can be said for that old gear and a lot of really good usage for that old gear left. What axes do you recommend? Okay. I like the American-made axes. I like Plum, Collins axes. Those are my personal favorites. I do have a Gransford's Brooks. But to be honest with you, I found a lot of the modern Gransford's Brooks a little too hard for our hardwoods that we have in America. What limited usage I've been around people that had them and etc., I really think that those axes are set up more for the European woods, which are a little softer than ours. So American plums, true standards, those type things. Plum's probably about my favorite. I've got a Plum double bit I've had since the 70s I'm still using a lot. And of course I have my, it's my little canoe axe with the tomahawk-like head that's a lot like the Columbia type that they've got today. Those are my two favorite axes. And so if I were going to recommend one to buy, look for a Plum, an American-made axe. What stoves do you use when camping? Okay. On the trail, I usually just build a small fire. Barring that, if there's going to be some reason why building a fire isn't a good idea, I will often carry the Trangia stove full of fuel and simply take 3 steel tent stakes and put in the ground and put it in the middle of it and set the pot on top with that. I will also use the canteen cup stove that locks the bottom of my canteen for me personally. If you're talking about the next step up, then my Swedish military pot that I've showed in several videos recently is my favorite for me, if it's just me going. I find that to be the most versatile. That windscreen can be used for wood as well as for the Trangia stove, so I got a good variety of fuel there. I've taken dry pine cones and crumbled it up into it and set it on fire before, and had a deep, rich bed of coals to heat and cook on. I've used the Trangia in it. I've used several different ways, and that's my favorite for that. The next step up would be the Pathfinder set with their big, deep Trangia-like one, but I have found that it is not as efficient at cooking as the brass Trangia because it doesn't transfer heat as well. For a group, a Coleman 2-burner. I've never found the need for a Coleman 3-burner. That's more of a camp stove for like in a cabin setting up for a big hunting camp. So a Coleman 2-burner multi-fuel is something I used a lot. I have gotten a Coleman propane 2-burner for Mrs. Blackie because she likes to, when we go, she wants to just turn a button, hit a thing, and heat up a pot for coffee or something like that. She doesn't want to have to fiddle with the fire. She's been with me nearly 30 years and camped with me in all kinds of weathers and climes. And still, she doesn't like to build a fire unless she has to. She'd prefer to go and heat something up. So I love her, and I'm very grateful she goes with me. So I will make her comfortable and carry that Coleman stove with a propane. It's a long-winded answer. I hope that answers what you want to know. Okay, question number 5. Why do you carry such heavy gear? Okay. I take this to be that you're probably someone that's with the modern backpacking and carrying, you know, the ultralight stuff. And there is a distinct place for that. Don't get me wrong. But my type of camping is for comfort and luxury more than anything. And I'm not trying to make 30 miles a day anymore. I'm trying to just come in, set up a base camp, and then explore the area and come back to that base camp. So the durability of my gear is what I'm more interested in. I have packs that were made in the 1920s that are canvas and leather that I still use. They're very good, rugged, reliable packs. The German canvas Alpine pack that I've showed many of my videos is my go-to rucksack for carrying enough for an overnight camp out. In fact, I have 3 of those, and one of them is set up strictly as a camping bag. So my hammock and everything I need for camping is it, and it's set up so I can grab it, with 2 others for various other uses. I like the military type clothing. It's heavy, but at the same time, I don't mind the gear. I don't mind the weight. It holds up so well and such long term. It's an investment that I put into and they get many years out of. I gave away to Mark Hudson at the base camp out up on Duggar Mountain in October a sil nylon tarp that I made that was the size of a Coke can wadded up. I had made that as a big cover for a hammock and all, and I just never carried it. Sil nylon is great for weight, but you can't let a spark get on it, which means you can't be anywhere near your stuff with your fires. And little bitty things like down here in my neck of the woods, we have sharp long leaf pine needles. They drop and they'll harpoon into a tarp and leave pinholes in a nylon tarp. Our storms are sudden, severe, and intense, and it's been my experience, personal experience, that the bulk of those nylon tarps don't hold up well when you start pulling and stretching them sideways and things like that, like in a really heavy storm. They don't last long. And so I hear about all these guys and I see they're talking about, oh, I'm carrying this super light pack that it weighs 6 ounces and my entire pack rig weighs less than 9 pounds and blah, blah, blah. Kudos. But at the same time, I see them about every 6 months getting a new pack. And that's a $200 pack. And that $150 or $180 tarp, they get 1 season, maybe 2 out of it. And then they're throwing it away because they're claiming it no longer will waterproof, or it's all the seams are shredding. And, you know, I've got a canvas tarp I've had 20 years. If I had to ride out a hurricane, that'd be the tarp I'd grab. Yes, it's heavy, and I do carry heavy gear, but I carry it because of the durability. That's where I do it. Okay, number 6. What do you think of the U.S. military sleep system? Great kit. The Gore-Tex bag, if I was still doing a lot of backpacking, would be great. You can lay down on wet ground and not have to worry about water seeping through it. It keeps your bag dry. It is big and bulky and it's relatively heavy, but it will handle the cold, it will handle the wet, it will handle whatever. The foot of them are very big and square, so you can twist your feet around, as opposed to the old mummy bags that were, you just about had to punch your toes straight out, fit into them. And once you get a little mature, the bags fit you really good. I have the Gore-Tex cover, and I have the Green Patrol bag that rides in my bug out bag in my vehicle. It's because if I have to go to that, I really don't know what the situation is, you know, and I'm being forced into a bad situation, so I want those. I do not have the black bag or the compression bag, and then I would have the entire system. But I have had the entire system in the past, and I have traded it off to somebody, not because I had any issues with it. I think it's a great piece of gear. And if you're just going to buy one set, go with that. It's a really good set of gear, and it fully tailors and adjusts to whatever the weather conditions are. Number 7, what foods do you carry on the trail? Usually when I'm going out over for like a weekend or something like that at a gathering, I will carry canned food, and I will carry my little Swedish stove to heat it up in. I have carried the dehydrated meals. If I'm backpacking, dehydrated meals are quick instant stuff like rice, instant chilies and things like that, instant soups are very desirable. But for the most part, I just carry what I want to eat. Usually I end up bringing back extra food. Now, let me touch on that 1 second. How you set up your menu. I plan on a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 2 snacks, because I'm hypoglycemic and I have to eat, for each full day. So let's say I'm going out the first day. I don't include a breakfast because I'll eat that en route. I'll need a lunch and a dinner. Then I'll need breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Saturday, and I'll only need a breakfast and maybe a lunch on Sunday, and then I'm coming back. So I plan my meals, slot what I want for that day. I can always swap from one to the other depending on my taste at the moment. And what is the resources available? If I got plenty of water and I'm having to walk in a long way, something dehydrated where I can just grab water, boil it and process it will become more prevalent. Otherwise it's going to be canned or heat and eat stuff usually. If we're going to be out here for several days, then I'll bring food to cook, like eggs, bacon, hams, things like that, if I'm toting a cooler, or it's just cold enough it doesn't matter for the refrigeration. Okay, why don't you use a Silnai tarp? That was what I said earlier. It's the durability of them. I think they're very good, and you can get some high quality product, but for the most part, they don't hold up well in my woods. Usually if I'm under pine trees like I am right now, the sap dripping on them causes problems. The underneath oaks, you get dew stuff that drops off of them, and they just don't seem to hold up that well for my type camping. I have no problem with them, and if you want to tote it for the lightweight, please do. But for me personally, I just would rather something else. What do you think of feather sticks as a wet weather fire starter? That's the exact time to use feather sticks. Feather sticks are very prevalent up north. I remember someone saying not long ago that everything in Canada burns. You can take stuff that just knock the snow off of it and start making a feather stick. Now that's very important up there in the cold climate because the water in the surface of the wood may have frozen and you're trying to cut down to the relatively dry wood. If you're in wet, swampy conditions like here in my south, making a feather stick makes sense of getting down to the dry. I usually don't make feather sticks unless it's raining. And then you've got a time limit. I get everything prepared and then I bring out I'm prepared to do it, and I start making my feathers quick. Set it aside, grab the next one. I'll have 4 or 5 sticks ready to go, so that as I expose that wood, the moisture in the air, like today it's 80% humidity, it's drizzling as we're talking right now, will seep in. So as I expose it and make it dry, it's not going to stay dry permanently. I have to make my feather sticks quickly, get them together and get the flame to them. Otherwise, see, it'll just seven up. You can't make the feather sticks and leave it there 10 minutes while you gather the stuff. When you get back, they're already too tamped to light. So feather stick is a wet weather trick undercover where I'm doing them in a hurry. Okay, number 10. What budget knife would you recommend? More knives. Great knives to start out with. They're really good. Old Hickory butcher knives. Case 2X butcher knives. Great knives for the field. A budget type bushcraft knife, Condor bush lore. A expensive knife in the hand of someone who doesn't have a lot of experience isn't a big advantage. An expensive knife in the hand of someone with real skill is a big advantage. I had to save up a long time to get my custom knives that I have, but I use them so much I can warrant it. If you're just doing the go out and do your bushcraft every odd weekend or whatever, I would go with some of the cheaper knives like the bush lore or something equivalent, or the Moras, one of those. I think they'll serve you real well. Isn't that big hat hot to wear in the South? Yes. I get a lot of questions and things about my hat. This is a felt type hat, and what that means in English is when it's summertime, it's hot. It has an advantage though. I can dunk it in water. It's a crush up hat, and I will simply dunk it under water, let it soak up, shake the excess out, and put it back on my head, and it's like keeping a cool rag on my head, where I still have the protection of snake or whatever in a tree. I got something I can turn with and keep stuff from getting close to my face, having something to fan the fires with, etc. But yes, it does get very hot in the South. It's very warm in the winter and it's kind of hot in the summer, but once you get it good and wet with sweat, it's like having a wet rag on your head. It's actually fairly cooling then. What are your tips for staying warm in a hammock in winter? Ooh, that's a video unto itself. I recently did the video showing how I set up my hammock in winter, very low to the ground, with the tarp angled that severe way, with a big pile of leaves underneath to help trap heat underneath me, catch the warmth, and circulate it around me. What I'd recommend you do is look back at that video. It's just a couple of videos back. It does seem to be, for me, the warmest way to stay warm in a hammock in the winter. Clothing, underquilt, overquilt will all greatly enhance. But the bottom line is insulation or radiation. Those are your two choices to stay warm. Either I am insulated where I'm not losing much heat, or I am radiated from a fire or some other warming source. Those are the two ways you're going to stay warm. So, hope that answers. Now, please refer back to that video. Number 13, are you writing a book? No and yes. I did a thing a few months ago where I was going through photography that had me in it, looking for headers and things to put onto my videos, and I came across a picture of me with my flintlock down next to a tree that a good friend of mine had taken. And I put it, when I cut it and cropped it, because it was a vertical shot, it looked like a book cover. And so I put on my Facebook channel, I said, kind of looks like a book cover, don't it? And so many people jumped on that, wanting to know when I was writing a book. I'm kind of halfway thinking about it. I'm most certainly thinking about taking all of my, Percussion Revolver videos and turning them into something. But we'll see down the line. If there's interest in it and you'd like to see me write a book, put it in the comments. Enough people said it. Believe me, I can talk enough. We can turn a book out. What disasters are you prepared for? In my area, the two biggest detrimental things that happen are hurricane and ice storm. Ice storm is just about as rare. A tornado is incredibly intense, but it's very limited in its scope. Usually no more than a half mile across, something like that. Whereas a hurricane can devastate 1,000 miles across. It's days for people to come and help you. So I have food, water, and things put up, and other supplies for the idea of a hurricane. Ice storm, those same things would be applied. I have plenty of blankets. I have a fireplace in my house. I have ways to heat and take care of, and plenty of water put up. So hurricane and ice storm are my two big ones. Will you be doing hunting videos? Probably not. And I don't do that, say that to be disrespectful. To me, hunting is a very private thing. I'm doing it for meat, and it's a me and the environment and the animal type thing. And plus, if I'm hunting, I'm not toting the camera. You know, it's kind of show off and being a show off to me if I tote a camera with me and, ooh, here's me shooting squirrels. I may be doing a hunting camp video where we'll set up a hunting camp and have friends come in and we'll videotape us and things like that about what's going on. May do that. Number 16, the Campcraft Haversack. Do you still like it? Yes, I love it. Extremely well made, holds up very well, and I've had a lot of people want to look at it. For a winter bag, which is a knapsack slash haversack, it's outstanding. I really, really like it. I can put a whoopee into it. I can put enough gear to camp out. So it has become my favorite haversack when you're carrying gear. Okay? What leather sheaths would you buy for a BK knife? StitchGear.com 6-way sheath like I carry with my Master Woodsman. It gives me the most options. It would give you the most options for carrying. I have found it to be just a great piece of gear. I can carry it over here Cheyenne style for a cross draw. I can use it as a drop sheath. I can use it as a scout carry, etc. So I would contact Randy at smithgear.com. I'm sure BK is so popular, he's bound to have a sheath for that made up. Will you offer the Percussion Revolver series on DVD? I've talked about that. I've thought about it, and I'm talking to somebody right now that does professional editing that we might do that. I've got a few more videos to make, but whenever I say that's it, that's what I know, I will probably edit it into one big video and offer it to you guys if you wanted it, just one for a collection. But that's still a year or so away. But yeah. Being from the South, what about snake boots? Snake boots are great if you're going to be getting out in the thick stuff, especially in the early part of the hunting season, where our snakes are still out, cranky and really upset. It's a good idea to have snake boots. And so I like the ones that come up fully to the top of the knee or heavy leather. Barring that, snake chaps. I do not have snake boots anymore. Mine I had to pass on to somebody else. But I do have a pair of snake chaps that when we're going out and we're going through the thick stuff, and I know that there are a lot of snakes out, I'm going to be carrying that. And number 20, what upcoming events will you be attending? I'm thinking about going to the spring Georgia Bushcraft event, and I will be holding my own event sometime in either April or May. Wait till after Christmas, I'll announce that. And there's supposed to be an event we're putting on sometime in January or February in North Alabama that will be called Frozen Foot, and it's going to be a winter camp where we focus on how to stay warm and tips and tricks for the winter. That's basically it. I hope this has answered some of your questions, guys. If there's anything other questions you'd like to know, please leave them in the comments and I'll add them up for next time. Till next time, I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.